fellowship is for a year or two. So a lot of times, even if you're married, even if your family is in different place, that should be a little lower on priority because it can definitely shape the career much better. So these should be higher up on priority, and other things possibly can.
How do you choose fellowships in India, sir? So, what are the things that a person after his post graduation should keep in mind? How soon in his career should he opt to a fellowship? Immediately after post graduation, or should he work in a specific unit like you did and then go to a fellowship? How does he choose the institute? What are the parameters to be considered?
To me, I feel after 3 years of residency, most of the countries abroad, the residency is for at least 5 years or 6 years. So our residency is for 3 years. I honestly feel that you do require a year at least of practice in general orthopedics before you choose a specialty. That's post graduation, because as a postgraduate, a lot of times we do tend to be focused upon our exams and clearing the exams. So most of our learning is on those lines. So once you have cleared that year of practice in general orthopedics, possibly as a senior registrar, definitely in a general orthopedic unit, maybe I'm an old time now, but it does play an important role in making you a better surgeon. But beyond that, 1 year is possibly a good time. And beyond that, once you are quite comfortable, handling all the general orthopedics, then you should start focusing on fellowships. So I personally think that 1 year also is very crucial in us deciding whether we want to do a fellowship in the country or go for an international fellowship, because that most of the fellowships abroad are at least a year or two's waiting. And you need to go ahead with the paperwork and stuff. So that particular decision needs to be made possibly at the year that you work as a general orthopedic surgeon, and then you choose which fellowship you go ahead with. I would say that the choice for making where to do the fellowship it depends upon within the country. If you're thinking of a national fellowship, one of the most crucial things, in my opinion, is the volume. Think of large volume centers. That should be the first choice in our minds. Large volume centers, the exposure to a wide variety of cases, that should be on top of the priority list. A lot of the hands-on experience actually varies from center to center. I personally think the year of general orthopedic practice when we actually get, that's when we, as a senior registrar in general orthopedics, we should have that should be a center where you have good hands-on. You should be allowed to do a good number of routine cases. But when you go for the fellowship, I would prefer, in my priority list, I would think having exposure to a large number of cases, whether the hands-on is great or not, should be the priority. And of course, if there is a good hands-on experience, then that should be the second on the list. And the it's a fellowship is for a year or two. So a lot of times, even if you're married, even if your family is in different place, that should be a little lower on priority, because it's can definitely shape the career much better. So these should be higher up on priority, and the other things possibly can be adjusted for a year or two, or even the stipend that they offer, those may be lower down on the list. But exposure to the higher number of career, that should be on top of list of the aspirants.
So, while choosing the fellowships, two most important things are getting trained in a high volume center, and the second thing is how much hands-on do you get in that particular center. Everything else like salary and even moving away from home comes next. So,
I would think so.
is it mandatory to? Do you think is it mandatory to, or is it a prerequisite like to do an Indian fellowship before going abroad, or how do you feel, sir? Like, should we get exposed to the subspecialty beforehand so that we have an edge when we go abroad?
I wouldn't think it's a necessity or it's mandatory, but a lot of times it may work much better practically that way, because as I said, you do 1 year of registrarship in general orthopedics, and that's when you start applying for the fellowships abroad. And a lot of times there's going to be a wait period of at least a year and a half or 2 years. And in the meantime, when you have a year's experience, like for me, since I was in spine fellowship, and the particular person knew at the center, so the fellowship director. So he actually offered me an interview. So once you get an interview, then it's mostly how you perform on that particular day. But to get notice for an interview, it makes a difference. So that way, if you are applying for a spine fellowship, like for the next year, I sort of, when I was sometimes you want to diversify when you are when you are abroad and you want to settle down, but then even then you think, I actually applied for a lot of other subspecialties, but since you have an experience, I got called mostly for opportunities in spine. So that's how it usually works. So if you have you would definitely have a year or two with you, and if you are focused on fellowship in a particular specialty, if you are already working in that specialty, then it may give you a better opportunity to land in a fellowship abroad. But it's not compulsory. If you're lucky enough to directly get a fellowship abroad in that particular specialty, then you should go for it rather than do a year's fellowship and then move to that.
Thank you, sir. So actually doing a fellowship in India helps us get a fellowship abroad in the same specialty.
Yeah.
Okay, sir.